In this video here, we are going to be comparing fractions and seeing which fractions are bigger or smaller. So let's say, for instance, I have a fraction here of 3/5, and I want to compare that to, let's say, 5/8. All right. I want to see which one here is bigger, either 3/5 or 5/8. And there's a couple ways of doing this, actually. I'm going to show you two main ways of doing this. The first way is by using cross multiplication. So to compare fractions using cross multiplication, what we're going to do is multiply the denominator of one fraction to the numerator of another fraction. So what that means here is I'm going to take this 8 right here. I'm going to say 8 times 3, well, that equals 24. So I'm going to put a 24 over on this side, and then I'm going to take this 5 and multiply it by this 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So that's going to give me a 25 on this side. And now I just see which number is bigger. Is 24 bigger or 25 bigger? Well, clearly 25 is bigger, so that means this side is bigger, and that means that this fraction is bigger. So that can be a pretty simple way of doing it there, using cross multiplication, and I'll do another example of that in a little bit. But I want to show you first another way of doing it, and that is going to be using long division. Because let's say we had a different fraction here instead, where we had 3/4 compared to the same 5/8. And now we want to see which one is bigger again. Well, I could do the cross multiplication again, or I could realize that 3/4, well, I already know the decimal version of that. 3/4 is the same as 0.75, or 75%. So if I can convert this fraction to a decimal as well, that might be a quicker way to compare the fractions other than using the cross multiplication. So it's kind of just sort of realizing what you're working with. Maybe you're comparing a decimal to a fraction, then it might be quicker to compare or to convert the fraction to a decimal. Or it might be if you have two fractions and one of them is very easily convertible to a decimal, you might just take the time to convert the other one to a decimal. Or if they're both fractions and you don't really know the decimal version of either one of them, then maybe the cross multiplication is a little bit faster. So it's all about knowing what you're working with and figuring out, just kind of thinking what would be the quicker way of being able to compare these fractions. So now our problem here, now our task here rather, is figuring out how to convert 5/8 into a decimal. And we will use our handy friend of long division here in order to do that. So in order to do long division, if you don't remember, we're going to take the numerator and put it inside of our bracket here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put the 5 in here, and then I'm going to put the denominator on the outside. So that's going to be the 8. And now what I need to ask myself is, how many times can 8 go into 5? Well, 8 can't go into 5 anytime. That's going to be a 0. So now we need to add on a 0. I'm going to put my decimal place here and my decimal place here. And now I can ask, how many times can 8 go into 50? Well, 8 could go into 50 6 times, because 6 times 8 is 48. So now I multiply that. 6 times 8, like we just said, is 48. That's going to give us 48 down here. And then we subtract these. 50 minus 48 equals 2. And now we ask ourselves again, how many times can 8 go into 2? Well, it can't go in any amount of time, so we need to add another 0 here and drop that 0 down. Now the question is, how many times can 8 go into 20? Well, that can go into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 equals 16. So again, we are going to subtract, and that leaves us with 4. 20 minus 16 equals 4. And ask ourselves again, can 8 go into 4? No, it cannot, so we need to add another 0. Drop that 0 down. Now it's how many times can 8 go into 40? And that is 5, because 8 times 5 equals 40. And scroll down a little bit. Again, we do our subtraction. 40 minus 40, that equals 0. So we have no remainder, which means we are finally done here. And our full answer is 0.625. So we can see that 5/8 is the same as 0.625. And that means that 3/4 is bigger than, because 0.75 is bigger than 0.625. So let's go ahead and do another couple examples of these to make sure we really understand all this information here. We really understand both ways of solving this here. All right. So let's do another example here. Let's say we're given, maybe we're given a decimal right off the bat, and we're going to say 325 compared to, let's say, 3/7. Which one is bigger here, 0.325 or 3/7? Well, in this case, we're already given one decimal, so maybe it's quicker now to just convert this to a decimal quick. So let's do that long division again. We'll put a 3 inside, put a 7 on the outside, and ask ourselves, can 7 go into 3? No, it can't, so it's going to be a 0 point something. Let's bring our 0 down. Can 7 go into 30? Yes, it can. It can go in there 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. Subtract, we're going to get 2. Drop down a 0. How many times can 7 go into 20? That will be 2. 7 times 2 is 14. Subtract. Let's bring down our 6. All right. Bring down another 0. 7 can go into 68 times. 8 times 7 will give us 56. Again, subtract. That'll give us a 4. Bring down another 0, starting to lose a little bit of room here. All right, bring down another 0. 7 can go into 4. How many times can that go in? 5. That'll go in 5 times. 7 times 5 equals 35. And we could probably stop right about there, actually, because realizing that we have 3 decimal places here compared to this many decimal places here. So 3/7 is the same as 0.42, and I'll call it 9 if I'm rounding up, 0.429. So we can clearly see that 3/7 or 0.429 is greater than 0.325. So let's go ahead and work on another one here. Let's do the cross multiplication again. Let's look at that cross multiplication example one more time. All right, so let's imagine we have another fraction here. Let's say we have, 3/11 here. We're given 3/11 compared to 1/3. Let's do 3/11 compared to 1/3. Which one is bigger? Well, let's do cross multiplication. We'll multiply this 3 to this 3, and that will give us 9. We will compare this 11 to this 1, and that will give us 11. So we see that 11 is bigger than 9, which means 1/3 is bigger than 3/11. So see, sometimes the numbers are just really small and short, so it makes it really easy to do the cross multiplication way. Sometimes that might be the quicker way of actually doing it, other than having to go through long division. Let's show the cross multiplication way one more time. Let's say we are given 5/7, and we are given, how about 8/11? How about that? All right, so we'll just do multiply 11 times 5. That's going to give us 55 over on this side. And then 7 times 8, that's going to give us 56 over on this side. We can see that 56 is slightly bigger than 55, which means that 8/11 is slightly bigger than 5/7. And that is how you can compare fractions using 2 different ways, either converting the fractions to decimals using long division, or using cross multiplication for the fractions.